Hi everyone, it seems like I'm on a roll today, so I'm just going to go with it. I have painted my fence yesterday and my body's all sore. I'm not used to such vigorous physical activities, and today I am trying to clean up the cupboard so I can move stuff around, so I can sort out my spare room. It's a bit of a domino effect. I have to tidy up one spot before I can tidy up the next spot, etc. And in that cupboard is my tarot stuff, books and decks. It is a Chinese wedding cabinet, so it is enclosed, and although it's in a living room and in a public space, it is quite private. And so my tarot decks are all over the place at the moment. There are three spots for it. One is the ones which are still packed up and remain to be unpacked. They're mainly my collection as such, decks that I collect. A few of them are decks that I work with, and I have yet to manage to unpack them because they're piled on top of other things that I need to move first in the spare room. And then there are decks that I am working with currently, and then there are decks that I am wondering, or that I'm sitting on the fence about whether my journey with it has finished. This is one of them. I sort of felt like my journey with this is over. It was a relatively short journey. It was the first deck that I've owned, which depict daily lives in the modern day, and I like the modern take of it. There's just something about it, though, maybe because it is associated with a period of my life that is a little tricky. It's not bad, it isn't painful or anything, it's just one of those awkward moments in one's life. It wasn't long ago, actually. That's about maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Maybe about a year ago. Yeah. So this is the Kochs Tarot by Judith McKay Sturt. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And that's a photo of her. As you can see, this is Schiffer. Let me turn the light on. Okay, we're beginning to lose light. It is about 6 o'clock, and so we're going into daylight savings. Going to be over soon, so we're losing the light sooner and sooner. So that's nicely packaged. Very sturdy, and then that's how that looks, like that, and that's how the back look. I like the artwork. It's very bold, it's very modern, and it is almost it can almost be considered to be part of that style that one called the naive style of art, of painting. That's the book. Quite a sturdy, solid, chunky, physically speaking. I really like the back because it's quite simple. I quite like simple. I don't like, actually I prefer the back a lot more than the front. And then the deck goes like that. It has this, so it's not too bad in terms of digging them out. You don't have to tip, you don't usually have to tip the box, but you do have to dig. I'm now digging with my nails, so that's not very good for the card. So you just basically cut the deck into two, and they fit on each half. Okay, you have better time than others trying to get the card out, so sometimes you do have to tip them over. We'll just pull that aside. So that's the back. The card is quite big. It is probably about as big as an oracle card. My hand's not very big, and so that's the mini Lenormand there. And that's the trimmed Mary L. Oh, that's kind of nice together, isn't it? Anyway, so that's the back, that's the front. The cardstock's really glossy, so it is quite sticky to shovel. I can't shovel this way, it's too big. It's too painful for my hand, so I have to shovel this way. Or I have to shovel that way, which kind of bent, unfortunately, made the whole deck sort of bowed a little bit, and so I stopped doing that. And because it is quite thick, it tend to bow, or maybe because, I don't know, I don't necessarily say whether it's thick, but it is on the, it's definitely not a riffle shuffle type of thickness, so you do have to do this. I feel that riffle shuffling, like I tried to do just now, requires a lot of strength to bend it, and then it started bowing the whole deck. but because of the glossy surface of the cards, doing an overhand shuffling requires a lot of thumping. Like, I really have to do it quite roughly because otherwise the cards stick to each other. So that's not ideal, and it doesn't feel as nice in the hand when everything's sticking. So I am going to quickly just flip through because it's been used, it's not in order. So that's Six of Pentacles, Page of Cups, the Hierophant, the Ace of Wands, Seven of Cups, King of Pentacles, High Priestess opening her cafe, that's quite cool, Strength, Queen of Cups, Knight of Pentacles. This is probably the first deck which Page of Swords, which give me a glimpse of further understanding of the courts. Six of Wands has a Chariot, that's quite cute. I've received, I did a first reading for someone and that turned up. I remember that yeah, it's marked in my memory because it's me reading for others the first time ever. That was last year, mid last year. It's King of Swords, Queen of Pentacles. She reminds me of Walt Disney's Snow White. Eight of Cups, just moving away from the dishes there. It took it down. I mean, that's Nine of Pentacles. It really takes it down to day-to-day, down-to-earth. King of Wands, scenes and life. And this is my first ever, I don't know if I've said this already, the Moon. This is my first ever modern deck as such, the Hangman. And it just makes things so much easier. Knight of Swords. Not that you don't want to go deep, I mean, you want to go deep. You have all the depth in the world with decks like this, right? The Mary L. But sometimes you just need to, to chill. Ten of Cups, Page of Wands, Six of Cups, Eight of Pentacles. Look at him go. You have to do this right before the bakeries open. You have to do this before the stores open. I mean, this is the image that I got. I can't remember what the book says. This is Two of Cups, Two Swords. You see that duality, and you're in the middle. Ace of Cups, ever flowing. Tea, comfort, love. Ace of Pentacles. That seed in the middle of the apple. How appropriate. The Hermit. I get a feeling of someone in the beach, in the batch by the sea, just on your own, away from society, away from the internet, from your mobile phone. That's the Emperor. Completely in charge, doing a barbecue by the beach. How cool is that? The Lovers. Four of Swords. After you eat, you rest. Barbecue's gone. Two of Wands. Five of Wands. Sort of vigorous activity that seems to be competing with each other, but they bear fruit. After working with my Two of Wands last month for March, I get such a more deeper understanding of the Two of Wands, and this just takes a completely different dimension looking at this now. Your domain, you're right where you are, everything's done, and now you're looking out into the world. I have to reread the book. So in that sense, I guess I've just made up my mind that I am not going to pass this along, and I'm going to keep it. Judgment. Ten of Wands. Seven of Wands. King of Cups. This is also my first deck. I mean, my first understanding. My King of Cups, the first time I understand the King of Cups is in this deck, with this picture, with this handbook. Three of Pentacles, Eight of Wands, Ace of Sword. That's the cover of the box. The Magician is in the kitchen doing her magic, creating with all the tools and all the skills that she has. Nine of Cups, Madame over there. Ten of Pentacles, the goose that laid the golden egg. The world. World is your oyster. And pearls. The world. Literally. Your oyster. Queen of Wands. Party girl. Four of Wands. The Star. Look at the Star. She's in the bathtub. Isn't that nice? Two of Pentacles, really juggling there. All the things you need to do around the house. The Sun. There is the baby. It's probably not as creepy as some baby, but the Nine of Wands. The Four of Pentacles. Look at that. Images are cheerful and clear. Page of Pentacles. And they are something that you can relate to. Seven of Swords, sneaking out with your shoes. Carrying your shoes. The taxi's outside. You're still in your PJ or whatever you're doing. And you're sneaking out. The Empress. Looks like she's pregnant and, you know, the usual stuff. I have my opinion about pregnant Empress and such, but that's for another topic. For my Tarot Thought series, perhaps. The Wheel of Fortune. Ten of Swords. Look at that chicken. Now, Three of Wands. I have something to say about that. We'll do that later. Knight of Cups. Five of Cups. Oh, spilt milk. The phrase spilt milk. Crying over spilt milk come to mind. The Nine of Swords. That's the barbecue skewer again. The Three of Cups. Justice. Isn't that funny? Justice. Consequence. Eight of Swords. Isn't that interesting how the image, look at that, the bird in a cage, the opened, you see how glossy this cardstock is, that's how glossy it is, and she's actually free and she's bound there. I like that. Queen of Swords. Five of Swords. Isn't that interesting? You win the battle but lose the war? I don't know. Three of Swords. Three sticks stabbed into a strawberry there. And strawberry bled red, don't they? The Tower. The dog took something off the table. So a plate of chicken and everything falls apart. Seven of Pentacles. Knight of Wands. Five of Pentacles. Oh, he's looking at that. He's outside and it's raining and all the candies are in on the other side. And that's the traditional image of that Five of Pentacles on church window there. Just a reference to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. Temperance. Death. The chicken's over there and yeah. Very down-to-earth take of death, but we got the message. The Devil. Isn't that interesting? All the chain and that food. He is giving you a piece of cake and alcohol and everything, and you're bound by the pantry there. Six of Swords, moving away, moving forward, moving on. Four of Cups, just completely blah. And the Fool. I like the Fool. She's dancing away in the kitchen. So this one here is in relation to the book. So the handbook is quite good as well. It's sort of, let's see, I had to retake this video because there's some glitches again. So that's the Three of Wands. All the books are like that. First, it describes the cards in its entirety, and then it shows key element. In this particular one, it's fire, compass, oak leaf, and ship. And then it discusses each of the symbols, and then it discusses the meaning of the card, and then it gives you the kitchen wisdom, which is a phrase. Like in this case, for the Three of Wands, it is better to watch a ship coming towards you than to watch it going away. Just a little tidbits, and I find that quite fun. Now here, in this particular, it says, let me read that again, fire, compass, oak leaf, and ship. Fire, compass, oak leaf, and ship. Where's the oak leaf? I think it's that. That is hardly an oak leaf. That is the tip of some form of oak leaf. So it seems to me that Schiffer have just basically slapped this banner over the original painting instead of underneath it. Now the reason for that, I'm not sure why. Maybe someone's running out of deadline, and it's just easier to superimpose the banner title of the card on top of the original painting rather than adding to it, because that screwed up with the ratio of the card that you need to give to the printer. I'm thinking I'm no expert in printing process, but from the basic knowledge that I know, that's probably the case. I know it's easier to do this than to add a layer underneath the original painting for whatever reason. But you can't see the oak leaf, so I find that really sad because it's one of the 4 elements that is pointed out in the handbook. So that made me think what else is in the deck that's missed because of that. I haven't found any. Having said that, I have only read the book in relation to cards that I've drawn, so if there's any, I haven't found it yet. But this is also the deck, other than giving me a better understanding of the chords, this is also the deck that I use in giving someone else a reading. I was really nervous. It was a 3-card reading, and I remember the cards exactly because it shared in my mind, because of course the artwork is so bold, and I took a photo and sent it over through email, and he was kind enough to give me some spare cards from a vintage deck. I bought a vintage deck, and a couple or 3 or so of the cards was damaged, and so it was really hard to find replacement. And somehow I was referred to him as someone who already has a broken deck, so he, it doesn't really matter. So he was willing to give some spares out, and I was so grateful for. And so in exchange, he wanted a free reading, and I said I've never ever read for anyone before, and he said doesn't matter. And so I showed him the cards, and I said I'm consulting the handbook, and he said, oh, don't worry about the handbook, just tell me what you see. And so in that sense, he was also mentoring me, which is nice. It was a really short exchange, a very short reading. But I remember the scene very well because of this sense of movement in the chariot. He was moving in a certain way, and this particular man was thinking about moving, and he wasn't sure. And so the question was in relation to moving, relocating. And so I remember seeing that, the direction of the chariot going towards victory, and then there's this sort of initial, and so that was my first, where he's at the moment, and that's my first initial experience of reading intuitively, because up to then I've been focusing on understanding the tarot through studies. And so it works very well for reading intuitively like that, because of the artwork and just the sheer size of the cards. And even for bigger spread, I think it looks really clear, as you can see there. And of course, since then I've developed my own spread, which I expanded like so, like that, and even like that it looks really, look at that, it just. So other than the cardstock and the bit about the disappearing oak leaf in the 3 of Wands, this is a very workable deck. I found this to be a very good working deck, a workhorse, a really good workhorse. If you're not too fussed about cardstock or size of decks or how they shuffle, and if you like the artwork, it is a very down-to-earth workable deck. Bye.